in criminal jurisprudence will now be called to order. However, we're going to start in a subcommittee, get some other members in here to get a quorum. We're going to start today with Senate Bill 1135 from Senator Henderson. A couple announcements as you're getting ready, Senator. The bill sponsors have 3 minutes to present. The first two witnesses for and against will have 5 minutes to present. All other witnesses will have 3 minutes thereafter, and then once we start getting to the end of the committee, we're going to move that to 1 minute. The announcement on Senate Bill 1250. The sponsor is under the weather today, and we may have to move that to the next week. So once we verify that, we'll let you know, but that's going to be towards the end if we do hear it at all. Senator Henderson on Senate Bill 1135, you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. For the record, Mike Henderson, State Senator from the 3rd Senatorial District, presenting Senate Bill 1135, Bentley's Law. And I'll say real quick at the beginning, I'm probably going to have a sub on this that would make it Bentley and Masons, and you're going to see very shortly why I'm saying that. This is a bill I've carried now. I think this is my 5th year, in a row that I've had this bill. Senate Bill 1135 proposes that individuals convicted of driving while intoxicated, DWI, resulting in the death of a parent or guardian, be required to pay child maintenance to the surviving children. This support would continue until the child reaches the age of 18 or 21 if they are enrolled in secondary school. If convicted, individuals would be ordered to provide financial support to deceased children until they turn 18 or 21, unless there's a civil judgment. I want to make that clear when you kind of wonder how this works. A lot of people are uninsured, okay? We think everybody has car insurance. They don't, unfortunately, or they have very little. And so really, if this were to happen and they have insurance, it's probably going to go through a civil judgment with the insurance company. But since many of them don't, we have families, such as one you're going to hear from here in just a minute, and I'm going to let her tell the story instead of me telling the story what brought this on. I think it would be much better to come from her. But this would give them another avenue. As an example, you're going to see then the grandmothers, aunts, uncles, and sometimes the state ends up raising these children that are adversely affected because of people choosing to drink and drive. A little bit about it: extended support for incapacitated children. If a child is physically or mentally incapacitated and married, the court may extend it. The maintenance, the enforcement of payments, the maintenance payments would be processed through the circuit clerk with the provisions for wage garnishment to ensure compliance. There is a piece in there if they go to jail, which many times these people do not spend any time in jail, even in these situations. If they do, we give them a year to get their life under control where they actually get a job and they can earn some money. So we're not trying to, if we don't, they just won't work sometimes to help make these payments. So I think through the years, we've thought of most of the things that we probably need to do to ensure that this works. The bill aims to provide financial stability to the children who have lost a parent due to a DWI incident, and ensuring they receive the necessary support during critical developmental years. I just think this is the right thing to do, and I'm going to kind of save some of my time and let some of the witnesses about it be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Senator, thank you for bringing this bill again. I know since I've been in the Senate, you've had this bill. I think even maybe when we were in the House together, you may have had this bill.
I did.
So again, I want to thank you for bringing this, and hopefully this will be the year we can get it to the governor's desk. Is there any questions to Senator Henderson? All right, we're going to open it up to your first witness in support. They can come forward, make sure they have a witness form filled out for this bill, and they will have 5 minutes.
First off, I want to thank Senator Henderson for his continual support on this important issue and to continue to bring this bill to the floor, the House, the Senate, and I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak today. My name is Cecilia Williams. In 2021, my 30-year-old son, Cordell, 25-year-old daughter-in-law, Lacey, and 4-month-old grandson, Cordell II, were killed by a drunk driver. He blew a 1.92, I believe it was, 2 times over the legal limit. About a month after I contacted then Representative Henderson, and I spoke to him about Bentley's Law and what it what I wanted to do. He took up to it because he knows this is a common sense law. This is something that should be everywhere, and it is making its way everywhere. And I'm going to tell you, since 2022, this bill has been passed in several versions in these states. It's Tennessee, Maine, Kentucky, Texas, Utah, South Dakota, Montana, and the Cayman Islands. This bill recently passed South Carolina, the House, or Senate, I'm sorry, and it's on its way to the House. And it will make it through. It will pass. It is currently in Ontario, Canada. The government there had introduced this important piece of legislation. To date, this bill is considered and introduced in many committees across the United States. As I sit here today, I want you to know this bill is named after the two boys that came in with me, Bentley and Mason. Not only is it my son and daughter-in-law and grandson that was their mom, dad, and baby brother. As I sit here, I can proudly say, and I mean this with all my heart, that this piece of legislation is proving to help families. And I believe that Heather with MAD, and I hope I'm not speaking out of terms, may have that paper to show. There's a family in Tennessee who received more than what was ordered by the insurance company. They turned down the insurance company offer, and they got more out of Bentley's law in Tennessee. I'm very proud of that because it's showing these boys and their sisters that anytime something bad happens in life, you can take a tragedy and you can make it better. But I want you all to know something that's very important about this. This tragedy didn't just affect my family. It didn't affect just the boys. It didn't affect my son's girls only. These kind of crimes affect the first responders. And sometimes we fail to remember they have families too. They have to see, their families have to see the EMTs, the police, the fire. They have to see them go through their turmoil of the things that they have seen. And I'm not going to get into anything that I may have known about that night because the boys are here. But this bill started in my home state of Missouri. And I am very proud of this state. And I am very proud of the fact that it has made its way almost to the finish line in the time that it has been introduced. And I want to continue to say I am very proud of everybody's efforts by getting this bill across the finish line. And I hope I'm not taking up time, but I'm going to go on what he said here because he was right about the insurance. Not many families have insurance. Not many people on the road today have insurance. They might get it long enough just to get their vehicle license and they're done with it. They kill somebody and they have nothing. Families go to court, and what happens is they end up paying an attorney to fight a wrongful death lawsuit and gain nothing because there was no insurance, there was nothing to collect on. However, with Bentley's law, they have a job. And I've heard it said before, how will they afford it? If they can afford to go out and take a chance of killing someone or themselves every time they go out and drinking, knowing that that could be a possibility, they can afford to pay for the children who did not ask for this to happen to their family. Because you've got kids now who are going to grow up without their mother and father there for their prom, their graduation, to teach them how to drive a car. They did not ask for that. They did not. And the person who drives under the influence, they know. This is completely preventable, 100%. I thank you all. And I'm open. I'm sorry, I have one more thing to say because something that was always brought to my attention in some of the committees was what makes driving under the influence different and not having this bill behind regular homicide, say if someone went into your home and they just, ended your life, I'm going to tell you what makes it different. It's the time. A person who does something like that can get 25 years to life. You kill someone drinking and driving, you can get 5 years probation. As a matter of fact, there was a case just, I believe it was yesterday, that was finalized, and the man received 5 years prison time for killing somebody because it was his first DUI. But no one knows how many times he'd done it before. He just never got caught. It just so happened this was the time he killed somebody. He got 5 years. He'll be out in less than 3.
Before we open it up to any questions, I'm going to pause and take a attendance. Mr. Secretary, call the roll. If you don't die.
Senators Schroer,
Here.
Gregory 15, Brown 26, Berger, May, Roberts, Schnelting. You have a quorum.
Having a quorum, will continue to the public hearing on Senate Bill 1135. Are there any questions for the witness? I want to thank you for coming again and again and again and again. We've had this for several years. And thank you for your bravery and strength in addressing this issue and helping these two young men have somebody there for them. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. We're going to switch over to those opposed to Senate Bill 1135. Any in opposition to Senate Bill 1135? We're going to go back to those in support of Senate Bill 1135. Please come forward. So you have your witness form filled out, and then you can proceed when ready.
Good morning. My name is Cody Umphris, and I'm a sergeant with the Burnsville Police Department in Jefferson County. And I've been a law enforcement officer for 5 years, dedicating my career to traffic safety and impaired driving enforcement. I am a drug recognition expert, one of less than 200 in the state, and I'm also the only law enforcement phlebotomist in my county, one of less than 50 in the state. These roles place me on the front lines of impaired driving enforcement and investigations. The reason why I am so dedicated to DWI enforcement is because I was the first officer on scene of the crash that night. I was 4 months out of the academy and just out of training and on my own whenever I came upon the crash. Out of respect for you all and out of respect to the family, I will keep the details of that night hidden, but I will tell you it has affected me, and it has affected all those that were on scene that night. It's given me the drive and the dedication to do DWI enforcement, and the reason why this is so important to me is because 34 years ago, I was that little boy sitting back there. September 29th of 1992, my mom, my dad, and my baby brother were all three killed by an impaired driver. So I know firsthand the hardships that are placed upon families and the financial struggles that are placed upon families from individuals who make dangerous decisions. I'm fully in support of this bill. I'm fully in support of the family. I'm fully in support of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And I appreciate those who have brought this bill before the House and before the Senate and hope that we can get this passed this year. Those are the comments that I have. I've opened myself up for comments or questions that you all may have.
I think first, just thank you for your service to this state. I know as of right now with 2 officers in Christian County being murdered, it's a very tough job, and it does not go without us very much appreciating what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you again for coming today.
Thank you, sir.
Moving over to those in support, as there is no one here in opposition. Any further witnesses in support, please come forward. State your name for the record and begin when ready.
Yes, my name is Annette Wallace, and I'm here today to testify in strong support of Senate Bill 1135, also known as Bentley's Law. On October 22nd, 2022, my daughter Melanie was killed by a drunk driver. The offender was driving on the wrong side of the road and struck Melanie's vehicle head-on. She was only a mile from her home. Melanie and her friend, who was seriously injured in the crash, had 0 alcohol in their systems. In contrast, the offender had a blood alcohol content of 0.146, nearly twice the legal limit. While the headlines offer focus on the crash, the aftermath is a life sentence for the families left behind. Melanie was a single mother of 2. Her son serves our community as a law enforcement officer with the Callaway County Sheriff's Office. Her daughter Haley was a college student at the time with 1 year left to graduate. The night Melanie died, Haley didn't just lose her mother, she lost her entire support system. She became effectively homeless and was left without the resources her mother had worked so hard to provide: tuition, health insurance, housing, food, etc. The burden shifted instantly to our family. We were left asking, where will she live? How will she finish school? This is the hidden reality of DUI fatalities, the financial destabilization of the next generation. Missouri consistently ranks 9th in the nation for DUI fatalities. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and Mothers Against Drunk Driving, between 240 and 290 people die annually in alcohol-impaired crashes in our state. Each of these deaths leave behind a vacuum of support. Bentley's law addresses this by ensuring accountability, requiring offenders to provide financial maintenance for the children of the victims they killed, supporting caregivers, providing relief for the surviving parent, grandparents, aunt, uncles, siblings who step in to raise these children. Recognizing a choice. Research shows the average drunk driver will drive under the influence approximately 80 times before their first arrest. These are not accidents. They are preventable tragedies caused by a conscious decision to get behind the wheel. We cannot change what happened to my daughter, Melanie, or to the countless other parents lost to impaired driving. However, you have the power to ensure the children left behind are not also forced into financial ruin. I respectfully ask for your support of Senate Bill 1135 to ensure that offenders, not grieving families, bear the financial cost of these tragedies. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for being here, and very much sorry for your loss and what you've gone through. Are there any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Again, thank you for your time today. Next witness in support of Senate Bill 1135, please come forward. We're going to now move to 3 minutes for testimony, and we'll be a little lenient with these witnesses that sharing your stories. Please begin when ready.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Neldon, and I'm here today as Gracie's mom. In April of 2023, my daughter Grace was killed by a drunk driver. She was 23 years old, and the driver that killed her was 16. That driver, along with 2 of her passengers who were 15 and 16 years old, also died in that crash. So 4 fatalities, girls between the ages of 15 and 23. While nothing about this bill would change what happened to Grace or the reason that she died, it would not bring her back, and it would not have altered the outcome of our case. But I'm here today because meaningful deterrents matter. Any policy that makes someone pause before getting behind the wheel impaired is a step in preventing the next family from joining ours. Bentley and Mason's law does something important and practical. It places responsibility where it belongs, on the person who chose to drive impaired, causing irreversible harm. By requiring financial support for the children left behind, it acknowledges that the consequences of impaired driving extend far beyond the moment of the crash, and the damage is lifelong and the loss is generational. As humans, we're wired to change our behavior based on the consequences associated with it, both good and bad. Right now, our system of consequences for impaired driving is failing to act as sufficient deterrent. Some may ask whether financial responsibility can truly deter dangerous behavior. Deterrence works when consequences are certain, visible, and meaningful. The bill strengthens all 3. It communicates to every driver in Missouri that if you choose to drive impaired and take a life, the obligation to the family you harmed does not end with a sentence. It continues as long as the need exists. I also want to acknowledge the broader impact. Laws like this shape culture. They help move us from tolerance to prevention. They support victims without diminishing due process, and they affirm that our state values the lives and futures of children who have already lost so much. I stand here as a grieving mother who will always miss her daughter. I'm also an advocate who believes that prevention can help families go through the same pain that we're going through. Passing this bill will not undo the past, and it can't bring my daughter back. But on behalf of Grace and on behalf of families across Missouri who deserve protection and accountability, I respectfully urge you to pass this bill.
Thank you for your strength and bravery for being here today, and sorry for your loss. And it seems like every day in the news, especially in my county, in St. Charles County, there are young people who are operating under the influence of something. So we need to do a better job of educating them on the harms of doing that and the repercussions of doing that as well. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Next witness in support of Senate Bill 1135, please come forward.
Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Jen Wamskians, and I'm here today in support of Senate Bill 1135, establishing Bentley's Law in Missouri. I would first sincerely like to thank Senator Henderson for sponsoring this important legislation and for recognizing the long-term impact impaired driving has on children and families. We know you've worked very hard on this. This issue is deeply personal to me. My cousin David Weinstein was killed by a drunk driver on May 11, 2011, just 3 days after Mother's Day, which was the last time I saw him, and 2 days before his 30th birthday. Because of someone's decision to drive while impaired, our family will forever be living with a missing piece and an empty seat at our table. David left behind a daughter, Brianna, who was just 8 years old at the time of his death. In an instant, she lost her father, her protector, her provider, and the man who would have walked her through every milestone in her life. The driver who killed David pled guilty and served a short time in prison. However, a prison sentence does not help with school clothes or sports equipment. It does not contribute to college, and it does not replace the financial stability a parent provides. According to the Missouri State Highway Patrol, Missouri continues to see hundreds of alcohol-related traffic fatalities each year. In recent years, roughly 1 in 4 traffic deaths in our state has involved an impaired driver. These are not statistics. These are parents, these are children, and their families like mine. That is why Bentley's Law matters. Senate Bill 1135 ensures that when impaired driving takes the life of a parent or a guardian, the person responsible is also held financially accountable to the child left behind. It recognizes that consequences of impaired driving extend far beyond the crash scene and far beyond a prison sentence. Brianna could have significantly benefited from Bentley's Law. It would not have brought her father back, but it would have ensured the financial responsibility for her future did not fall solely on her grieving mother and the family members. This legislation is about responsibility. If someone chooses to drive intoxicated and that choice kills a parent, they should have a piece of financial responsibility for the child whose life they change forever. Bentley's Law sends a clear message that in Missouri, impaired driving carries lasting responsibility. For the sake of children like Bentley, Mason, and Brianna, I respectfully and strongly urge this committee to vote do pass on Senate Bill 1135. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony today. Are there any questions for this witness? Thank you. Thank you again for being here today. Next witness in support of Senate Bill 1135.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and distinguished members of this committee. My name is Heather Elder, and I serve as a Victim Services Specialist for Missouri Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in strong support of Senate Bill 1135, sponsored by Senator Henderson, one of our champions, known as Bentley and Mason's Law. 9-year-old Bentley and 7-year-old Mason are here in this chamber today, not by choice. They're here because an impaired driver made it a choice, a selfish, preventable choice that killed their father, their mother, and their baby brother. They are here to listen to their grandmother, Cecilia Williams, testify in support of the legislation she wrote in the aftermath of unimaginable loss, legislation she has helped champion and pass in 7 other states and even the Cayman Islands. It is time now for Missouri, where the tragedy occurred, to please bring Bentley and Mason's Law home. I have the unfortunate privilege, and I say unfortunate, of calling Cecilia my friend, only because of the reasons that brought us together. We would not have met if not for this terrible tragedy. Driving while impaired is not an accident, it is a decision. I sat beside Cecilia at the parole hearing of the man who killed her family. During that hearing, the offender admitted that he had been drinking all evening at a local bar. He admitted to the parole officer that 2 people offered to drive him home because they felt he was too intoxicated to drive. He said he refused the help. He admitted to the parole hearing officer that he chose to get behind the wheel anyway because he thought he could make it home. He did not. These deaths were not inevitable, they were preventable. When someone chooses to drive impaired and kills a parent, that choice does not end with the crash. It ripples outward for decades. It alters the entire trajectory of a child's life, emotionally, psychologically, and financially. According to NHTSA, 283 people were killed in drunk driving crashes in Missouri in 2023. That's a 20% increase from 2019. In 2024, 79 Missourians between the ages of 20 and 45 were killed in crashes involving a substance-impaired driver. Preliminary 2025 reports already show 62 lives lost in that same age group. This is 141 adults in prime parenting years, likely mothers and fathers, whose deaths may have left minor children behind. Behind every one of those numbers is a Bentley and a Mason, a child whose future has been permanently reshaped. Bentley and Mason's law ensures that when someone makes the deliberate choice to drive impaired and kill a parent, that they are held financially accountable for the children left behind. This is not excessive punishment, it is accountability. The financial support required under this law is modest compared to the lifetime cost borne by the child or children and extended family. It will not restore a parent, it will not erase trauma, but it will help provide stability, opportunity, and a measure of justice. Missouri has the opportunity to lead with both compassion and responsibility. Passing Senate Bill 1135 sends a clear message. If you choose to drive impaired and take a parent's life, you will face meaningful consequences in our state, consequences that prioritize the innocent children whose futures that have forever been changed. On behalf of Missouri Mothers Against Drunk Driving and on behalf of the children sitting in this chamber today, I respectfully urge you to vote do pass on Senate Bill 1135. Thank you for voting to bring Bentley's Law home to Missouri. I wanted to add very quickly at the end, Cecilia brought up about Brooke Stewart, who is the first recipient of Bentley's Law in Tennessee. She had every intention of being here today, could not because of the drive. She did submit written testimony. But to give just a very brief history of her case, she and Sean were married, had 2 children, lived just across the border from Missouri into Tennessee. Sean was driving to his job across the Caruthersville Bridge into Caruthersville, Missouri at 7 in the morning, was hit head-on by a drunk driver who had been driving at least 6 miles the wrong way, crashed into him on the bridge, blew a .29. So I just wanted to let you know that Bentley's Law for her and for her family has been a saving grace. Her children were both under the age of 5, and they were left without the father who was the sole breadwinner. So Bentley's Law in Tennessee has made a huge difference. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for your testimony today. Are there any questions for this witness? Seeing none.
Thank you.
I'll now move to the next witness in support of Senate Bill 1135. Show of hands, how many other folks are here to testify in support? Okay. One more. Ward, you can begin when ready.
Thank you. Ward Cook, on behalf of the Missouri Prosecutors Association, we support this as well as the substitute, the expected substitute. Just want to go on record in support.
Any questions for Ward Cook? Seeing none. I'll save my questions for you for another bill, Ward. The best dressed man in America, please come forward. After the State of the Union last night, I love that shirt. Did you attend? Were you in person, Arnie?
I couldn't get the helicopter to go that far.
Okay. We'll get you some tax credits to fix it, so maybe next year. Begin when ready.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, State Public Advocate. If I get a little boisterous or a little heated, this DUI, DWI, people who drive drunk without responsibility really tears at my heart. And I'm going to tell you a few stories in O'Fallon and St. Charles County that I've encountered where I have seen 5 drunk drivers myself and had to follow them or stop them till law enforcement could make the arrest and build the case. We need to wake up as a state, as a population, 6.2 million Missourians, as a General Assembly. I think as the speakers before me and the testimony that you heard, enough of repeated habitual drunk drivers. This bill, SB 1135, needs to get on the governor's desk. There needs to be a higher stance of our population for DUI, DWIs in Missouri. Like I said, I've encountered driver after driver after driver. Just in 2025 alone, I've encountered 5 DUI drivers who hit other cars, hit walls, did property damage, and created bodily injury. The latest was a 25-year-old at Missouri Highway 79 in Highway M in O'Fallon, where the driver didn't even know where she was because her home was in Moline Acres in St. Louis County, and she was some 35 miles away and didn't know how to get home. She was drunk. There was a person that went down an embankment in July of this year, another 26-year-old, and she came out unscathed, believe it or not. Went down an embankment of about 45 to 50 feet. There are 2 men in my neighborhood. One has 7 DUIs. The person can't drive a vehicle for the rest of their life. He now has a golf cart, and now he's gotten license plates on that golf cart. He's been seen driving drunk on sidewalks, so he's going to mow down a pedestrian if he's not careful. There's another man that lives in my neighborhood that came from Florida. He has 5 DUIs. He can't drive. He's limited to a motorized bike, but yet I still see him getting behind the wheel to go to the store or to go do his basic needs when he doesn't even have a temporary driver's license. I feel that we need to come to a state of realization that the first time that you're picked up for DUI, DWI, that if you don't learn your lesson, I don't think you should ever drive again. And I think it should be 3 strikes and you're out. But guess what? People are going to find a way to drive and a way to find a vehicle to get their fix. And within that 1/8 of a second, you can turn a family's life upside down and
Arnie,
create...
While your time has expired, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds just to summarize.
Thanks. To create havoc and a lot of tragedy. Because alcohol and very bad judgments. There needs to be responsible of yourself, accountability, and holding drivers 100% liable. We need to protect children. This bill is a great bill, and we really need to get it on the governor's desk. It should have been done 10 years ago. But the bottom line is, the people who make these bad mistakes and these bad errors need to be held accountable and responsible for their actions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your testimony today, Arnie. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Now move to any other witnesses in support of Senate Bill 1135. Seeing none. Any for informational purposes. Would Bentley and Mason like to say any words? You don't have to. All right. Just thank you all for being here and your bravery and courage coming to testify every single year. Hopefully we don't see you next year. Hopefully we get this thing done. Any closing remarks, Senator?
I just want to thank you for helping me get this bill up in a timely fashion. Thank you very much.
I think we have one question. Senator Berger.
Senator Henderson, what has caused this to stall in the past, or what's
I don't think it's any one person. There's no one thing. It's been actually on the calendar in the Senate right there at the end of the session a couple times, and just we've gotten it out of the House, and it just didn't. It was in the Judiciary bill, I think, 2 years, and the big bill they put together at the end of the year, but it just didn't get there.
Is there a House sponsor now, and is it moving through the House now here?
No. So we got this bill right here. Yes. Yeah, we have it moving both ways. Yes.
Okay.
We're trying to. Yes.
Thank you.
That will conclude the public hearing on Senate Bill 1135. I'll let the witnesses clear out if they would like to, and we're going to move to 2 bills at the same time. Senate Bill 1150 by Senator Berger and Senate Bill 1043 by my best friend, Barbara Washington. Senator Barbara Washington. You can go up there. And you all will have 5 minutes to present your bills, 1150 and 1043. You can begin testifying when ready.
Good morning, Chair Schroer and members of the committee. Thank you for having us here. For the record, I'm Senator Barbara Ann Washington. I represent Kansas City and Jackson County, District 9, and I'm here to present Senate Bill 1043. And this is
Senator Jamie Berger, District 27, presenting Senate Bill 1150.
So both of our bills are critical and necessary, and they seek to address a critical gap in our state's ability to protect our citizens from targeted anonymous terror. To understand the necessity of the bill, we got to look at the data. In Missouri, our hate crimes have seen alarming trends. In our recent reporting cycles, the FBI and Missouri State Highway Patrol have recorded a 70% jump in reported hate crime incidents. And of these, 55% or more were motivated by bias against a person's race, ethnicity, ancestry, or religion. Furthermore, nearly 45% of all hate-motivated crimes against people in Missouri were classified as intimidation. But our current law struggles to address a specific cowardly tactic, the use of masks to shield one's identity while executing these threats. So when a perpetrator conceals their face, they aren't just protecting their identity, they're amplifying the victim's fear and hindering the pursuit of justice. Both of our bills seek to address that. We are creating the offense of masked intimidation. So a person would be guilty if they intentionally harass, intimidate, or threaten an individual or a group while concealing their face with the intent to place them in reasonable fear or fear for their safety. The main differences are the punishment. In my bill, the first offense would be a Class E felony, the second offense would be a Class D felony, and the third, any subsequent offense would be a Class C felony. So the impact on our current law is that it will recognize that when you wear a mask, that becomes more intimidating and creates a more severe form of psychological warfare. And this allows for a harsher sentencing than just a basic misdemeanor harassment. I want to say that this will not infringe on one's right to wear their mask for health, religion, or celebration. It only targets those who use mask as a weapon of interference against the right of others. And I will turn it over to my co-pilot.
Senate Bill 1150 deals with the offense of mask intimidation. All over the world, extremists use masks to hide their identities while harassing and intimidating innocent individuals. This piece of legislation would create the offense of mask intimidation as a Class C misdemeanor, Class B if repeat offender, as well as amends the hate crime statute to include mask intimidation as an offense that can be charged with as a hate crime. There are carve-outs included for masks worn for health, safety reasons, religious exemptions for holidays and theatrical productions, as well as masks needed for weather protection or occupational safety. This bill is about punishing those who wear masks to intentionally harass others, not people who are wearing a mask for religious or health reason. Thank you again, and I'm happy to answer any questions, as well as there are witnesses here to provide further explanations.
Thank you both for bringing this important bill. I know we got a lot of members here who have a lot of questions, but I'm going to be brief here. That was a joke. The one thing that really stands out to me first, and let me just clarify, this might be the first time where a Democrat member has harsher penalties than the Republican bill.
That is not true.
So yours actually has ED and C felonies,
Correct.
Senator Washington, and Senator Berger's, you have misdemeanors, correct?
Right.
Okay. Are you all, have you chatted about if these bills?
We're gonna kind of work it out together. And I'll just explain the reason that I chose felonies versus misdemeanors, and I know it has a little bit of a fiscal note on it, is that when one is charged with a felony in Missouri, it doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna go to prison, but it does mean that they're gonna have some accountability to a probation officer or someone. And so studies have proven that having someone that they have to be accountable to as a probation officer, they are less likely to commit that same crime. So it does reduce recidivism. So that's kind of why I chose felonies, but I am willing to work with him, because sometimes you might have a kid that doesn't know, and we may want to start with a misdemeanor and then multiple ones would create a felony.
And I agree. You know, I'll work with Senator Washington, and we'll get to or come to some resolve and consistency.
I think I'm rubbing off on Senator Washington. I mean, you're having a lot of good talking points today.
And we have sat together 7 of my 9 years in the building, so we share a lot of similar. Now he knows more rap music than me, but other than that, we share a lot.
Well, Senator, both of you have a prong in your bills that discuss wearing a mask, hood, article, et cetera, because of the nature of a person's occupation, trade, or profession. In the news, we've all seen the ICE, the Immigration's Custom Enforcement, Border Patrol. The reasons they are being told that they have to wear masks or can wear masks is because of the intimidation and the doxing that is happening to their families. Do you believe that this is sufficient language in both of your bills to cover law enforcement officers who, whether it's SWAT or whether they're undercover and they've been brought in on some sort of task force that they need to hide their identity? Do you think this is sufficient enough to cover law enforcement in their profession, or could we tighten that up a little bit to ensure law enforcement officers are able to as well?
You know, I'm welcome to any suggestions to make sure that we are there, because we need to protect our law enforcement officials that wear those face coverings so their families are not intimidated. So we need to make sure that we are there. And so whatever I can do to work with Senator Washington, whoever else it may be that have those suggestions, I'm all for that. You know, if you watched the news recently where they had the snowball fights in New York, there weren't snowball fights. They were throwing snowballs at the policemen and they weren't throwing them back. And a lot of those people had on masks, and I feel like that was a complete deterioration of our respect of our law enforcement, and I'm not for that either. So I want to make sure that we get to where we need to be.
And on that point, we've seen a lot of riots. Where I grew up in Ferguson, Missouri, we saw a lot of riots back then, and they've kind of spiraled since then. When I look at some of these provisions in here, wearing a mask for the purpose of ensuring physical health, safety, limiting airborne illnesses, I have noticed since that time in Ferguson, well, since COVID, a lot of these different riots, you will have people in the groups that are wearing COVID masks, I guess you could call it. So I'd like to see if we could tighten that up a little bit, because that's very broad. That if somebody wears a mask, they could say, "Hey, I'm not guilty because I was wearing that mask because I didn't want to catch COVID." So that's where I think we could tighten that up a little bit. If you two are open to doing that, I'd like to work with you and try to make sure that's a legitimate belief that somebody's wearing it for health reasons.
I think this presentation kind of exemplifies that I'm willing to work with.
Right.
We're willing to work with anybody to tighten these things up to make sure that we protect law enforcement and support these bills.
Well, I generally like burgers, but I really love a Washington burger. Another joke, I'm sorry.
That's probably the best burger.
Well, tonight you'll have a chance for a taste of the South, so.
And that's tonight,
That's
correct?
tonight. That's tonight.
Don't hurt your belly. I mean, you're going to have barbecue. It just won't be the best. But it is good. It just
I'm
won't
ready
be
for
the
those.
best barbecue.
I'm ready for those
Remember
rolls.
that.
Didn't Kehoe last year, didn't he catch one of those rolls?
Right here. And I said if it would hit him in the face, that it arrested the thrower, right?
Wow. Any questions? Look at that. This massive committee has no questions. We'll open it up to the first witness in support of Senate Bills 1043 and 1150. Please make sure that you're testifying for or against these bills by clarifying that you're testifying for or against Senate Bill 1043 and or 1150. With that, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. My name is Jordan Kadosh. I'm the Regional Director for ADL Heartland. ADL stands for Anti-Defamation League. We cover the entire state of Missouri as well as other territories outside. And I'm here today to testify in support on behalf of ADL of both bills, Senate Bill 1150 and 1043, to protect our communities from mass intimidation and harassment. Since 1913, ADL's mission has been to stop the defamation of the Jewish people, secure justice and fair treatment to all. We have, through research, education, advocacy, and litigation, we strive to create a world without hate. ADL's work to counter mass intimidation is longstanding. Historians directly credit ADL's efforts to unmask hate with helping slow the growth of the Ku Klux Klan in the second half of the 20th century. And these efforts have led to the passage of anti-Klan legislation, including mass harassment, across 7 states. There's currently laws against mass harassment and intimidation on the books in 20 states. In over 50 communities. Unfortunately, we are seeing a resurgence here in Missouri, which is why this is timely. I'd like to highlight just 2 high-profile examples that illustrate the need for this legislation. The first is just last year, 100 members of the white supremacist group calling themselves Patriot Front marched through downtown Kansas City with their faces covered. Just before that, the year before, there were about a dozen masked men displaying swastikas on the Mason Road overpass of Highway 40 in Town and Country. That is the exit that you take to go to the synagogue that Saturday morning, so everybody got to see that one on their way to go pray. And these incidents are not isolated, they're just kind of the ones that have seen the most attention and the most coverage. And they kind of illustrate the moment that we're in where this has become, again, crucial. So both Senate Bills 1150 and 1043, they target the same dangerous conduct, individuals who intentionally conceal their identities while harassing, intimidating, or threatening others, placing them in reasonable fear for their physical safety. We all agree that the groups that I mentioned are protected under the First Amendment to believe and espouse any beliefs that they have. The mass intimidation and harassment goes a step further. And these laws are narrowly targeted to give law enforcement the tools they need to enforce public safety. So I urge you to vote in favor of it when the time comes, and I'd be happy to take any of your questions.
Any questions? Senator Mosley, do you have any questions? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you.
Any further witnesses on Senate Bills 1043 and 1150? And again, just make sure that we're putting on our witness forms and stating which bills we are testifying in favor of, and it can be one or both.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Chance Hepla with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Just want to go on record in support of both pieces of legislation. Really appreciate both bill sponsors for bringing this forward. We truly believe that this is a common sense public safety solution for many of our businesses. As many of you know, many of our businesses, organizations, safety and protection is top of mind, especially for their employees as well. And when many of our members are looking to expand their physical operations, or if there are other organizations and companies looking to move to the state of Missouri, public safety is top of mind, and looking at certain areas of the state where they know that crime is low and the area is safe. So again, with that, we are very supportive of this legislation. We're happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your testimony today. Any questions? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Next witness in support of Senate Bills 1043 and 1150.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arne C. A.C. Dienoff, State Public Advocate. I am in favor of both bills, 1150 and 1043. These are use of mass to commit crimes shall not be tolerated in our state. I want to ensure that, number one, religious exemption is strictly built into this bill. Number two, that health risks or prevention of health issues is built into the bill. And three, I'm a big believer that law enforcement has an obligation to our citizens to identify themselves when there's potential crimes or in their official duties as a law enforcement officer. In my opinion, these two bills, 1150 and 1043, this is common sense protecting our 6.2 million citizens. This is clearly, as presented, a bipartisan bill. Hate, intimidation, and harassment will not be allowed in our state whatsoever. This is a true public safety bill, and I encourage the committee to pass it on to the Senate floor, and let's get this on the governor's desk to go into effect in August of this year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dienoff. Any questions for Arne? Seeing none. Any further witnesses in support of Senate Bills 1043 and 1150? Seeing none. Any in opposition of Senate Bills 1043 and 1150? Seeing none. Any for informational purposes? Seeing none. That will conclude the public hearings on Senate Bills 1043 and 1150. We're now going to move to Senate Bill 1509 by our newest member, Senator Mosley.
Hello, Chairman and members of the committee. I'm State Senator Angela Mosley, representing the 13th Senatorial District. Thank you for allowing me to have this bill today. Have filed this bill since I've gotten in office, and you are, again, the first chairman to allow me to present this bill. So this bill establishes the Office of State Ombudsman for inmates in the custody of the Department of Corrections. Within the Department of Corrections, for the purpose of ensuring the adequacy and care of improving the quality of life of inmates. This office shall establish and implement procedures for receiving, processing, responding to, and resolving complaints made by or on behalf of inmates in the custody of the department, as well as establish procedures for the resolution of complaints. The office shall be directed by an ombudsman who shall be appointed by the governor and serve a six-year term. The ombudsman shall not be a current or former department employee or have a spouse, child, or parent as a current or former department employee. So that's the gist of the bill. I did give a committee substitute, worked on the bill with the Department of Corrections director to try to come to a happy medium. He wanted to be more of an advocacy person, and then he wanted to make sure that there weren't anything that would compromise the personal information of the inmates. So we made changes according to him. This bill was brought to me by one of my witnesses that be here, whose brother was ambushed in the prison and was murdered. Some of you were able to see that footage last year. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill again. I think it's fairly common sense piece of legislation, and thank you for working with the department on making it even better. Any questions for the Senator? Seeing none. Your first witness in support of Senate Bill 1509, please come forward.
Hello, Chairman, Chairwoman. Hello, Senator Mosley. Well, sir, Chairman.
You're the new chairwoman.
My chairwoman. I'm not even honest. Hello, Senator Mosley and members of the committee. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding correctional oversight. As some of you may remember me from last year, I am Maria Miller. I am the founder of Our Lives Matter, and I am here again, as Senator Mosley said, in honor of my brother, Larry Miller, who was brutally murdered in the Missouri Department of Corrections custody in 2014. I just want to thank you all for allowing me this space and to be heard again this session. And I especially want to thank Senator Mosley for your continued leadership and your support to me and my family. Since 2021, we started off with Senate Bill 471. Last year you all heard us with Senate Bill 378, and here we are. So since my brother's death, as I told you before, I began to advocate. And my work is focused on one goal, and that is to ensure that deaths and serious incidents in custody are reviewed transparently and consistently and independently, so that no other family has to experience what me and my family has been through the last 12 years, and it's still going on. It has not ended. And this is done from failure and neglect, just to make sure that if anything is being neglected or failed, that it is overseen. So I do have a packet presented. Senator Mosley has a copy of that, and if any one of you want to see this. Now, the purpose of this packet provides some documentation on Missouri prison deaths. It identifies transparency and classification gaps and supports the establishment of an independent office of State Ombudsman for inmates to ensure trust, truth, and transparency, along with accountability. And that is, in my opinion, is a family justice to families like mine. So with that, some of the key findings that you will find in that, since Larry's death in 2014, there's a record of over 130 inmate deaths annually in recent years. Independent review identifies multiple cases where this was really alarming to me, but it's a reality. There are several deaths in the recent years because more attention is being brought on this, where a coroner is labeling these deaths different from the Missouri Department of Corrections. I'll leave that there. You can look through the packet and see what I mean. So that's one of the reasons me and my family couldn't let this go. It was just too much going on. So here we are 12 years later, and those findings are less in the last 2 years, okay? Again, it includes Missouri prison deaths since 2014, and it's just a scratch of the surface. There are 3 individual cases that spanning from 2014 through 2026. I also included 2 of the people that I have advocated for since the last time I saw you. I didn't go back. We're only going forward because I wanted to just show you how this pattern consistently is going on. July, I began to, advocate for Malcolm Washington, and just recently George Wells. Now, they are alive, but this goes to the cases. The same structural questions appear repeatedly. Questions about evidence preservation, questions about internal administrative review, questions about housing and location documents, and questions about disciplinary process consistently. This is a consistent issue that goes throughout the entire state of Missouri with the prisons.
While your time has expired, I'll give you about 30 seconds to
Okay,
summarize.
so this is not isolated, but the bottom line of that is the need for transparency. You can go back and look at the packets, the undercount, the transparency, the duplication of names. It's just the records are not concise, and that goes to the deaths, to the violations, and to the conduct and the care with the prisons. And last but not least, I am at a different place than when I started. I was angry, I was broken. I'm in a different season. I'm not here to fight with MDOC. I'm actually tired of fighting. For 12 years, I'm here to work with them, and let's get through this and build a bridge for families that are going through the same thing me and my family have been through.
Thank you for your testimony and all your hard work on this bill. Are there any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you again for your testimony. Are there any other witnesses in support of Senate Bill 1509? Please come forward. We're still on 5 minutes, and then after this witness, we'll move to 3. Begin when ready.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Rika White, and thank you, Senator Mosley, for continuing filing this bill. I am here today on behalf of Empower Missouri as the largest and oldest anti-poverty nonprofit in our state. Empower Missouri is committed to improving the quality of life for all Missourians through advocacy. Since its inception, Empower Missouri has prioritized addressing the criminal legal system and its impacts, advocating for stronger Department of Corrections oversight and more effective accountability systems. I co-host a coalition group that has formerly incarcerated individuals that can speak on the conditions that happened and are still happening within our Department of Corrections. As I stated before, I'm here on behalf of Empower Missouri to support Senate Bill 1509. I would like to thank Senator Angela Mosley for continuing to file this bill every year. This bill will establish an Office of State Ombudsman within the Department of Corrections. The office will provide information to incarcerated individuals and their families, monitor conditions within the facilities, establish a statewide system to collect, analyze complaint data, and monitor parole board decisions for fairness and compliance. Nearly every public institution operates with some form of built-in accountability, while the Department of Corrections is responsible for providing the day-to-day needs of incarcerated individuals. The mechanisms to ensure transparency and accountability within the department are insufficient or non-existent. An independent oversight system is essential to identifying and addressing abuse, preventable harm, and correct systemic failures that persist within our prison system. Without external review, misconduct and negligence can continue unchecked, eroding public trust and endangering lives. Most importantly, independent oversight exists to protect the well-being of everyone inside state prisons, both those who are incarcerated and those who actually work there. This need is especially urgent in Missouri. Missouri Department of Corrections facilities have faced longstanding concerns regarding abuse, harassment, and medical negligence. These issues are compounded by troubling patterns of misinformation surrounding deaths in custody. Here in Missouri, there are over 24,000 people living in state prisons. Severe staffing shortages in recent years have made existing problems more frequent. The Missouri Department of Corrections has had an $830 million budget in the fiscal year of 2025. Since 2020, Missouri has paid over $80 million in lawsuit settlements and verdicts related to the department. Those costs are borne by Missouri taxpayers and residents. The range of settlements vary from hostile work environments, sexual assaults, extreme abuse, discrimination, and misconduct and mortality. In custody, deaths have reached well over 100 the past few years, with 2024 tragically reaching a record high of 139 deaths. Both past department employees and formerly incarcerated individuals have sought lawsuits against the state for these reasons. Blake Selby, James Pointer, Michael Hudson, those are just a few names of people who have lost their lives in Missouri prisons due to the criminal and negligence of conduct of DOC and medical staff. Each of these men have families who love them, who grieve their absence every day, and whose lives have been forever changed, like Maria Miller stated of her brother, Larry Miller. Not just statistics in a report or entries in a database, their deaths underscore the urgent need for independent oversight, transparency, and accountability within our department. For the inhumane conditions that persist inside DOC facilities. Missouri has a right to determine how their tax dollars are actually being spent and to demand accountability when the state fails to provide safe and humane treatment for those in its custody. Oversight is not a cure-all for the deeply entrenched issues within the Missouri Department of Corrections, but it is an essential and necessary first step toward building a system that is accountable, transparent, and responsive not only to incarcerated individuals and correctional staff, but also to families in the broader community. Independent oversight provides a mechanism to proactively identify and prevent abuses of power, ensure humane treatment, and restore public trust. For these reasons, I strongly encourage the committee to support Senate Bill 1509, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Next witness in support of Senate Bill 1509, please come forward. You'll now have 3 minutes to testify.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity. Senator Mosley and members of the committee. My name is Deborah Washington, and I am a sister and family member of Malcolm Washington, who is currently incarcerated in the Missouri Department of Corrections. I'm speaking today because our family has experienced firsthand the confusion, fear, and uncertainty that can occur when serious incidents and disciplinary actions happen inside correctional facilities without clear information or transparency. In June of 2025, Malcolm was involved in an incident that resulted in disciplinary action, including use of force and immediate transfer between multiple facilities. During this time, our family struggled to obtain accurate information about his condition, location, and status. At times, different facilities provided conflicting information, and we were unable to determine where he was physically housed. There were also concerns about injuries he reported, whether he had received appropriate medical attention. My family had no clear way to confirm what had occurred or how decisions were being made regarding his placement, discipline, and most importantly, his physical and mental health. Had it not been for my advocate, Ms. Miller, I believe my family would still be searching for answers without any action. However, the situation remains ongoing. His release date was originally scheduled for December 2025, after he had already served beyond his required 85%. It has since been extended to a later date, with numerous inconsistencies surrounding the circumstances. Therefore, I truly believe this oversight is necessary. My concern today is not to challenge authority of the department or the existence of disciplinary processes, more so the lack of consistent information, clear documentation, and transparent review when serious incident occurs. Families should be able to know where their loved ones is located, whether they are safe, and whether procedures have been followed. When information is inconsistent and unavailable, it creates distress and undermines trust in the system. The documentation issues described in today's packet clearly mirror the challenges our family has faced. We are here in hope, not accusation, to support effort that improves transparency, communication, and oversight to the families, so that families can have confidence that incidents are handled consistently and fairly. And thank you for your time and considering the importance of oversight and clarity for families impacted by the correctional system. And that's all I have. Thank you, guys.
You were right on time, too. Any
Thank
questions?
you.
Seeing none. Somebody else's alarm is going off. All right, any other witnesses in support of Senate Bill 1509?
My name is Tammy Reed. My son was killed in Tipton Correctional Center in April of 2023. Myself was a correctional officer for 27 years. I was always held to a higher standard when I was employed with Department of Corrections. Offered to help staff offenders. That was my job. When I got the call that my son had passed away, my son was healthy. My son was 6 months of coming home from prison. He was in a level 1 institution. Talked to my son the day of the incident. From the time that I got the phone call that night, I have done nothing but fight the system to try to figure out what happened to my son. My son was left to die for 5 hours in a camera cell. If he was on camera, why is it that I have to fight so hard to get these images, these photos of my son? I've hired a lawyer. We're still fighting. To this day, I still have no knowledge of really what happened to my son. Why, as a mother, should I have to fight of thinking my son is in an institution where he used to be protected? where he is to be rehabilitated to come back to society. These people were paid to take care of my son and other individuals. But yet, no accountability for the actions that took place on my son that day. Where is the justice system wrong? Where do we start at to fix it? I support this bill because I feel like if something had been done prior to this, the accountability would be held there. I'm just a grieving mom trying to get justice. My son was put in prison to pay for his crimes. These people committed crimes way worse than what my son did. And no actions are being taken for their faults. Where is our justice system wrong at? I think this bill needs to be passed to save other families of the fight that I'm having to fight for my son. We have to start somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, and on behalf of the committee, I know it's not much, but we're very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you again for being here today. Any other witnesses in support of Senate Bill 1509? By show of hands, are there any other witnesses after this one in support or against Senate Bill 1509? Okay, one more. Please begin when ready.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. My name is Sage Quorum on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union of Missouri. We're here going on record in support of SB 1509. I'd like to thank Senator Mosley for refiling this legislation year after year, as well as the tireless advocacy of community and impacted persons and families in this room and across the state to bring independent oversight to the Department of Corrections. It's important to have external accountability for any institution that is tasked with providing services for the public. And this bill brings that to the Department of Corrections. A system to increase accountability and transparency is necessary to help root out abuses and patterns of poor conditions within facilities, and it is also intended to protect and ensure the well-being of all those who live and work inside state prisons. Over the last decade, tens of millions of dollars have been paid by Missouri taxpayers in the form of lawsuits against Missouri DOC stemming from abuses, neglect, discrimination, and poor conditions within our prisons. This bill is an important step in the direction of accountability, and it will also increase transparency for the Missouri public, lawmakers, corrections officers, and family members and loved ones. The ACLU of Missouri supports this bill to move towards ensuring the civil rights, civil liberties, and the dignity and worth of everyone in Missouri's prisons.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Last witness in support of Senate Bill 1509, please come forward. Show of hands, are there any testifying in opposition? Any for informational purposes in the audience? Okay. Mr. Dino, please proceed when ready.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, State Public Advocate. First of all, I'd like to say I have to oppose this bill because there are just too many duplication of services and a lot of other avenues. I'll try to break it down for you. First of all, I'd like to break down the fiscal note. As you all know, we have to cut $2 billion from the state budget between now and fiscal year 2028. $640 million is due to be appropriated in this year, in 2027 fiscal year for corrections. We have a duplication. I'd like to break that down. There is an inspector in the Department of Corrections. There is a Internal Affairs Division in the Department of Corrections. There are many grievance policies in the Department of Corrections that if a prisoner feels that they're being mistreated or civil right violations are being taken place, that there's a grievance policy up to the warden and up to the Deputy Director of Corrections and then the Director of Corrections. There are court rulings and case law that directs the Department of Corrections on how to take care of and manage the day-to-day prisoners. If the prisoner feels that they're being violated, they can file complaints with the Missouri Highway Patrol for investigation, the Federal Bureau of Investigations for investigation, the United States Department of Justice for investigation, the United States Attorney's Office, depending on what side of the state they're on, for investigation. There are endless amount of not-for-profit organizations and correction advocates, to include House members and Senate members who visit the prisons routinely, that they can make a grievance or bring and lodge complaints to and get some type of satisfaction or investigation. In my opinion, the fiscal note currently says that it will be more than at least $500,000 that we cannot afford, and will just be another bureaucracy, another creation of unknown full-time employees to man this division. There are countless opportunities for not only prisoners, if they feel they're being mistreated or violated. Guess what? They shouldn't have made that mistake or error in the first place, and they wouldn't be in the situation being in a prison for a certain amount of time in the first place if they followed our laws and acted like a Missouri human being. But people make mistakes, and I believe in second chances. And so if they feel that they're being not aggrieved, that there are more than ample opportunities to rectify that with the current methods and the current layers of government. We don't need to grow our government. We need to shrink our government for the people of Missouri. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for Mr. Dienoff? Seeing none. Thank you. Any further witnesses in opposition of Senate Bill 1509? Seeing none. Any for informational purposes? Seeing none. Senator, any closing remarks?
I would like to thank you all for hearing this bill again. This bill did pass last year. It did also get put on a bill last year. Just had some problems in the conference. But I would like to say, even though there are internal affairs departments, and a lot of times they are working with people who are doing the corruption in these facilities. I know that from experience of doing a complaint against someone and it coming back saying that nothing was done wrong when it clearly was. Even though there are supposedly internal affairs departments and other types of people in place to oversight supposedly what's going wrong in facilities, they are not always on the up and up. And that concludes my statement.
That'll conclude the public hearing on Senate Bill 1509. We're now going to move to Senator Gregory's Senate Bill 1250. And show of hands, who is going to testify in support or opposition of Senate Bill 1250? Okay. Senator, begin when ready.
Mr. Chairman, members or senators of this great committee, David Gregory, St. Louis County 15. Before you, Senate Bill 1250. What this bill seeks to do is it seeks to eliminate any kind of maintenance order when you hit the age of retirement. So maintenance, that's not child support, it's maintenance to a spouse. So what's happening right now is some judges are going a little rogue, and they're making spouses continue working into retirement age literally until they die. That's absolutely wrong. And so what this bill does is it ends it at the federal age of retirement, full age of retirement of 67. And it's just important to note that this does not change anything else. So if two people are getting divorced, the judge can still split the retirement savings any way they want. They can split the assets, the debt. They can do anything else they want. What they can't do is force a human being to work until they literally fall over and die. With that, I will take any questions.
Senator, this is fairly similar to a bill that you had last year, but just trimmed down, I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions for the witness or for the sponsor? Seeing none, first witness in support, please come forward to testify on Senate Bill 1509. Not 1509, I'm sorry, 1250.
1250. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Member of the committee. My name is Elizabeth Lauber, registered lobbyist representing Walther, Angel, and Stamper. For the record, I am not an attorney. I am representing an attorney. Attorneys in a law firm. This sounds a little like upside down land, but this is a citizen bill, and so this is how we worked it out. We thought it was pretty good. Spousal maintenance reform, Missouri is long overdue, and what you have before you today for consideration is a short bill that makes one simple point. Enough is enough. And I'm going to expand on that with just 3 quick points. The first point is the most simply stated position which the bill sponsor has brought forward to you today is often the result of a lot of complex thinking. And that's what we have here with this. The senator and his team have done a lot of work on this, and that's what we have. That's the first point. The second point is what the bill does is it says that the institution of marriage matters in our society. When you get married, it's a serious decision, and who you marry, where you live, and what you do are the 3 most important things in many cases, most cases, that frames your life. So this bill says that choosing divorce is a tough choice. The judge has discretion, as the bill sponsor pointed out. However, the possibility exists that the payor is paying maintenance until reaching normal retirement age. Also, the payee may, when they get married, have to decide they might want to put some money away for a rainy day or get a viable occupation if the unthinkable happens. By the way, this is completely appropriate. Maintenance was never, ever engaged upon to be a lifestyle. It was a stopgap. My third point, my final point. Many people, when you're looking at this bill, you think that there might be some concerns about our judicial court system or the attorneys in family court law who are often pointed at as not treating people well. I want to say enough is enough to that too, and I want to make this clear point. This bill respects the judiciary. It respects attorneys. What it says is that it is institutions that sometimes lead to an out-of-control judicial system, and that's what we have in family court, where we have the violation of the Missouri Constitution, where we have no equal outcomes under the law. It's a crapshoot. If you're in one section of the state, judges don't turn it on, maintenance. If in another section of the state, they don't turn it off. So what this bill says is we respect this, and it is our constitutional duty as a constitutional republic in our series of checks and balances to provide oversight. And that's simply what this bill does. So in conclusion, it's simple, it's fair, it's honest, it's transparent, it respects marriage, and it respects our family court system. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none. Next witness in support, please come forward.
How did I know you'd be here?
I don't know. I think last year. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, State Public Advocate. First of all, I'm in support of SB 1250. This is a common sense piece of legislation. You cannot punish a person past retirement age. You know, it's about humanity. You know, we all unfortunately make mistakes. No one human is perfect. If a person is divorced, guess what? They shouldn't have a life sentence of paying payments past retirement age. This is one of the top 10 pieces of legislation of this General Assembly this year that makes 100% a lot of sense. For those reasons, I highly support SB 1250.
Arnie, did you get those links about the shirts that I sent you?
Yes.
Okay. I look forward to, over the next couple weeks, seeing some amazing shirts. Any further questions for Mr. Dienoff? Seeing none. Any further witnesses in support of Senate Bill 1250? Seeing none. Any in opposition of Senate Bill 1250? Seeing none. Any for informational purposes? Seeing none. Closing remarks.
Mr. Chairman, I think it should just be reiterated and highlighted that I made AC's top 10 list of bills. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're number one in everyone's hearts. We're going to now conclude the public hearing of Senate Bill 1250 and move to Senate Bill 1421. Mr. Vice Chair, take it over. You want to be chair? Top 10.
Senator, you may proceed when you're ready. Is this thing working? Yep. No.
All right. Be the last bill of the day, so I'm going to be pretty concise. For the record, Senator Schroer, Senate District 2, on Senate Bill 1421. This legislation is long overdue, in my opinion. We've seen over the past several years how drones have been weaponized. We all know how they can be used for good, from hunting, agriculture, farming, even just photography and hobbies. But over the last couple of years, we've seen in many different countries, most notably the Ukraine-Russian war, where these drones are being weaponized, and we know the threat is coming. So what this does is concisely put some boundaries in place that if you're going to use these within 400 feet over a correctional center, mental health hospital, open-air facilities, or critical infrastructure, we're going to put some parameters in place to allow law enforcement to take those down and criminalize this sort of activity. Presently, in law, there are a lot of different exceptions, and we're trying to build our common sense legislation around what's already in statute today. It's not an attack on technology by any means. It is a recognition that technology must be matched with responsibility and guardrails, and allowing law enforcement the reasonable tools to take these things down. If it's over a stadium, a mental health facility, we know the threat is real, the threat is coming, and that's what we're trying to do, is work with law enforcement to give them the tools to protect us in the state of Missouri. So with that, I'll be open to any questions and then turn it over to our witnesses that we have behind us.
Questions for the sponsor? Seeing none. First witness to testify in favor of Senate Bill 1421.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Lieutenant Alex Vivas, Missouri State Highway Patrol, Chief of Staff, Governmental Affairs Director. I'm here on behalf of the Department of Public Safety and the Missouri State Highway Patrol to testify in support of Senate Bill 1421. Just cover a little bit of why 1421 is important to us. Like the Senator said, we want to make sure that law enforcement have the ability and have the tools to deal with drones that are being used in nefarious or by nefarious actors. So this basically allows law enforcement to have the authority with probable cause to mitigate a drone that is being used as a public threat. We all know that FIFA is coming up, the World Cup's coming into Kansas City. We want to make sure that that is a completely safe environment. This also gives the authority to law enforcement to be able to mitigate drones when a drone is being used in the commission of a crime. That's a simple two-pronged approach. No different than any other thing we do covered under the Fourth Amendment. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here. Next witness to testify in favor of Senate Bill 1421.
Mr. Chairman, Shannon Cooper today representing the city of Kansas City, and we just want to go on record in support of this bill. With the World Cup coming up in a couple short months here, we feel like these abilities are extremely necessary to keep our community safe. As you can imagine, we're going to double the size of our community with visitors from all around the world, and we're hopeful that no nefarious actions will take place, but currently we don't have the ability for our law enforcement and the Highway Patrol partners to take down suspicious drones. So this would greatly add to the safety for this event. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman.
Next witness in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Scott Swain, representing the Missouri Police Chiefs as well as Verizon. The police chiefs certainly want to go on record in favor of the bill. That makes perfect sense. We've got to protect the citizens, and we'll do so in Kansas City during the Cup. Verizon's issue is interesting. There's some clunky language in there as it relates to critical infrastructure. So I use the bombing in Boston for an example. If nodes get blown up, we're considered critical infrastructure, so we fly drones up to be able to look at the infrastructure. The cool thing about the patrol and what they're setting up is they'll be able to have certain frequencies and waves to know that who should be there and who shouldn't. It's like a planes app. You know, you can see which plane should be in the sky and maybe which one shouldn't. The military uses it a lot. Very similar, but on a much more micro scale. We'd like to hone in on making sure that those exemptions and allowances for us to be able to do that critical work are in there. I think we're covered, but we just want to make sure, and I've talked to the sponsor and certainly willing to work with the committee. So I just want to go on record.
Thank you very much. Questions for the witness?
Thank you.
Seeing none. Next witness in favor of Senate Bill 1421.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arne C., AC Dinoff, State Public Advocate. Again, this bill, I'm in favor of SB 1421. Again, it makes the top 10 list of common sense pieces of legislation. We need to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Missourians, especially with large events like the soccer tournament that's coming to Missouri this year. Now, the 400 feet, I'm in agreement with, but I want to make sure that 2 points are clearly concise in the bill and the law. Number one is I believe in the freedom of the First Amendment and the freedom of the press. If press wants to cover this, like the Olympics, I don't know if you all saw Olympics, like on the bobsled or the downhill, the slalom, they had drones that followed the skiers and the sporting events. I want to make sure that we're not infringing on any of the press or the media to cover the soccer tournament the way that they see fit. Those people, of course, are vetted. They have credentials. They're not going to be a public threat. So I want to make sure that the right of the press is not infringed on. The next issue is I think that law enforcement needs to have a clear and concise map on Google Maps that's clearly accessible by the public to know what the rules of engagement are and what the 400 feet look like in terms of a oversight on a Google map or other appropriate maps such as MapQuest. There's probably oodles and oodles of different options that you can get in terms of maps. But I think law enforcement needs to be upfront and opened in a transparent fashion with people who want to cover public events. For those reasons, if you take those into account and make the appropriate amendments, I'm in full support of SB 1421. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you. And my question for you, now this is the second bill that has made the AC's top 10 list. How does this bill rank in comparison to my Senate Bill 1250 on that list?
I would say they're about parallel.
That was the wrong answer. Any questions for the witness?
Hey, you have the gavel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next witness in support of Senate Bill 1421. Seeing none. Any witnesses to testify against? Seeing none. Anyone for informational purposes? Seeing none. This concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 1421. And we will. And this. What is the language? Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.